Hey everyone, working on the Rav4 today, getting some stuff done that I've been putting off for a long time. So my front brakes have been pretty trash since I got this car, and I knew that, but I didn't want to mess with it because I knew I was going to do some sort of big brake upgrade. And so now that I have that dialed, I could figure out what brakes I could run. And I had this kind of backburnered plan and gathered up all the parts. So I'm going to be running 98 LS400 rotors, which are the correct hub bore, bolt pattern, all that fits right up. Plenty of clearance on the backside, no issues there. I have removed both my brake dust shields. I did that when I rebuilt the wheel bearings and all that, so those weren't even there to begin with. Then the caliper I'm going to be running is a first gen Toyota Sequoia and Tundra caliper, and that's a 4-piston. These are the brake pads. Not that much bigger brake pad overall than the original OEM Rav1, but quite a bit bigger contact patch because it's contacting here to here on this rotor versus the original one. So even that, the LS400 rotor is only marginally bigger overall diameter than the factory Rav rotor, but the thickness is where the Ravs fade hard. They're super skinny. They're like 18 mil new rotors. They're really light and they fade quick. So that's really their shortcoming. There's a lot of other upgrades that are straight bolt-in, but they're either more expensive or not as significant of an upgrade, in my opinion. A lot of people do the GT4 brakes, but those are getting expensive and hard to find. So figured I'd try and find something else that works. This is the Tundra Sequoia caliper. This has a factory bolt pattern of 5 inches center to center. The Rav4 is 5 1/8 center to center. So what I'm going to be doing is opening these up and moving them over. So I'm going to a 9/16 18 bolt in these. So I'm going to open these up in the caliper side because there's tons of meat here, and on the spindle side there really isn't very much. So rather than try and shrink that pattern, I'm expanding this pattern. And then on the car side, all I'm going to be doing is drilling and tapping the spindles to a 9/16 18. So that's easy because the drill size for a 9/16 18 in the steel is 1/2 inch, so really common drill bit size. You just got to get the tap and the bolts. Offset with these rotors, there may be a rotor that works better, I don't know. From everything I test fit in the Junkyard as best as I could, the LS400 rotors were the closest, but offset wise we're really close. I'm just going to be running 2 grade 8 washers on the backside here, which you'll see. And then only other thing, diameter of the rotor, again, really close. I bumped the whole pattern when I did that. I'm bumping it out and down, so I'm kind of going towards this way as I do that. And I'm just doing that with a die grinder. Expanding that out, getting it close, and then drilling it. And that gets my pattern correct and also gives me a little bit more rotor clearance. I'm just hogging out a little bit with the die grinder here and here. It's mostly just because I think the LS400 rotor is slightly larger diameter, so it touches just a hair right on the edge, on the inside and the outside there. Probably saw in the video I put 2 bolts in there. I just measured center to center, made sure that when these are in the holes that they're at 5 1/8 center to center, which they were. Just hogged off a little bit, mostly right here and here and here and here. And that's it for modifications of the calipers. Yes, the downside of doing it this way is if I replace the calipers at any point, I'm gonna have to redo this machine work when I replace them. That's the downside. I could have done this on the spindle side, but there's just not that much material there. Well, why are you running spacers? Yeah, I'm running spacers, but people have their opinions. I'm gonna leave this here for now, sitting there, that's fine. I'm gonna lop the ends of my studs off. To do that, I always run a set of lug nuts past it first, all the way to the bottom, cut them, and then when you back the nut off, it'll self-correct the threads. Go 1/2 inch hole and then 9/16, 18 tap, and those will be good to go. Oh, the only other thing I did notice, if you got a washer with a smaller profile, maybe it wouldn't be an issue, but on the back side there's these little tabs that keep the washer from sitting flush and going where you need it to. So you just hit that with the die grinder a little bit too, just to get those washers sitting nice. Then the final piece of this puzzle is brake lines, which, all right, this is where we get to some stuff I don't love about this. I was hoping to use these Audi lines that I found, and this side works perfectly. And even though they're a little too long, I wasn't worried about it. But then I noticed this side is opposite of how Toyota runs their lines. So this is like a, I don't know what it would be called, inverted flare or something. So I'm not confident in those sealing, which I don't like. So these are the Sequoia banjo bolts, and using them with a Rav4 replacement soft line doesn't quite add up the math. So I'm going to be using these banjo bolts with copper sealing washers on it and cleaning up that mounting flange on the caliper as best as I can. So all I'm doing now is putting a flare on this, cleaning it up so that this can bottom out against the copper washers, not against that flare there, because it would just leak on the pressure side from the line. So I'm just drilling this. It's just kind of a standard countersink tool, and clean that out with some brake clean. Make sure that it's actually putting pressure down on the copper washers, and we'll see if that seals. I have more confidence in this sealing this way than I do in the Audi line sealing up top. So let's see if I can get this on camera for you guys. I'll get you guys a overall cost estimate when I finish this up and give you kind of a cost total of if you're doing it with junkyard parts like I did, or if you're doing new. Just clean it up. Any powder coat left on there, clean that out with brake clean. And then I'm just going to thread this. Thread this banjo bolt in as far as it'll go by hand. All I want to do is make sure that this Rav4 banjo is close to the thickness to make sure that these copper washers see enough force on them to seal up. So basically I'm looking for, if you can see this, like, yeah, we're pretty close. That's like 1 right there, so that should be plenty of sealing pressure on this. It would, like, ideally you would probably want that taper to seat into the caliper at the same point that these copper washers get exact pressure on them. You could try and balance that out like that and see if you can get it, but I tried to get it as close as I could, but I still think it's going to be mostly just these copper washers that are keeping everything sealed up, which is fine as long as it's sealed. Throw a link in the description to those little clamps. They're so nice to have. Also, if you don't have a pair of Knipex Cobra pliers, get you some. Throw a link in the description of that too. These are pretty much my favorite. This and the mid-torque Milwaukee Impact are my favorite tools. And Baby Sledge, of course. But you'll see I use these instead of the wrench just because these are faster to get this thing touched down to where it's happy and stops leaking. Okay, so I'm just going to bleed these, hop in the car, start it up, put some pedal pressure to it, re-bleed them, and check for leaks. And if I got any leaks, I'll fix the leaks. I always like to clean these out with brake clean so I can see if there's any fresh fluid coming down, leaking out. Just started it up, got some brake pedal feel, seems good. Didn't see any leaks here, nothing pushing out, so I'm just gonna pull a little more fluid out of here. It's looking a little cleaner now too. I'll still probably re-bleed this in a couple weeks, assuming everything's working out all right. Just try and flush the system out as much as possible. A lot of the maintenance on these Rav4s, I'm sure a lot of you people that own them know, doesn't get done. They're great cars and they last forever, but you still got to do maintenance a little bit here and there. And a lot of people that bought these new, or third, fourth, fifth owners, whatever they're on now, didn't do the maintenance. not really a fair comparison because the original Rav brakes there were pretty shot. Also, the brake lines were gross, falling apart, but all the same, way better. Just went and drove it. Everything seems good. Tiny bit of rub on the outer diameter of the rotor, but I'll just hog a little bit more material off that, or we'll see if it self-clearances. Otherwise, pretty good. Stops way better. Did the braking procedure on those pads. Stops quick. They don't build up a lot of heat. They don't seem to fade at all. So they'll lock up if I really get on it. So I don't think I'm going to have an issue with the master cylinder being enough. I think that seems fine. And the car doesn't have ABS, so I expect it to lock up if I really get on them. And that was harder than I would get on it on the track probably, so not too worried about that. Yeah, all in all, worth it. So if you're looking for a cheap big brake upgrade, consider it. Thanks for watching. See you.